Hi there, I'm Johanna Lee, and in today's video I want to talk through the 3 most common vLookup errors and the solution to those errors. So this video is going to focus on kind of minutia of the vLookup formula, but real quick, just to kind of give an overview in case it's been a while, I would say vLookup is probably the most common formula outside of your basic arithmetic functions in Excel, so summing and multiplying and dividing and things of that nature. vLookup is going to be kind of the basically an amazing tool to use and to kind of get the solutions that you need in an Excel workbook. So as you can see here, in this gray box, I've transcribed the elements of a vLookup. So anytime you have an Excel formula and you type in vLookup, what it's going to do is it's going to give you these prompts. So as I type in here, which is kind of where this exercise is going to take us, once I hit that parentheses, I'll be able to see all of the elements of that function, and that's not specific to a vLookup. So it's a really helpful tool. You can also click here and you'll be able to kind of look and see kind of the explanation for each of the function arguments. So I won't go into too much detail for this specific video because it's going to focus on the mistakes that are made, but there's a bunch of vLookup tutorials online that are really superb and walk you through each element pretty well. So I will do what we're looking for this prompt is going to be the lookup value, which is going to be our letter, and I'm trying to look up what associated fruit corresponds to that letter. And so the appropriate formula that I am looking for across this exercise is going to be what's on the screen here. And we'll talk through kind of the mistakes that are commonly made. So as I can see, I'm getting everything that I want. So this should be the complete table based on a vLookup. However, one of the first things that is commonly mistaken in a vLookup is going to be your relative references. So as I point to A, you can see here there's no dollar signs, and what that means is that as the formula is adjusted to the right or to the left, it's going to change both the B and the 3. So as you can see in kind of our main solution here, the first formula is going to say B3 and the second one B4 and so forth. And if I took this to the right, it would also change in the row, so C3. As you should know, there is nothing to kind of correspond with this, so that is appropriate to get an NA response or an error in your formula. So the first thing is going to be unreferenced. So the relative nature of it is going to be columnar, so you want it to not have any dollar signs. However, if you forget to add kind of like the fixed formula for the table, which is an F4 or a dollar sign before both the letter and the number of an array. So if I forget that, so if I click out of the F4 and I do the formula as expected, the rest is fine except for those dollar signs are missing. What I'm going to get as I go through is a relativity for this formula. So for example, this is my first error that I run into. And as you can see, if you hit F2, you'll be able to see where this table array moved, and it's moving down because there are no dollar signs or relativity for that second prompt, the second argument in the vLookup. So the first thing that I look for when I see errors in a vLookup is definitely going to be that second argument to make sure that it's only locating the table in its static form. So the quick fix for that is just to kind of go back to this arguments. If you go in the middle and hit F4, for the arguments, you're going to be able to fix that solution. So that's definitely what I would say is the most common error for a vLookup, and so I would check for that first. So the second thing is less common, but it does happen in dirty data sets. So as you can see here, this table looks kind of funky because what is happening is there's extra white space where if I hit F2, I can see it's an A plus a space, not just a straight up A like it is in the row below. So what happens for a vLookup, especially if I'm doing an exact match, and I go to my table array section and I get the F4 correctly and column index 2 and false, I'm going to get an error. And so when this row here is center adjusted, you can kind of see that there is going to be an issue. It looks weird. However, if it's left adjusted like this, it's really hard to see what the difference is from row 3 to row 4. So if I see that, my table array is fixed, it has the dollar signs on it, what I'm going to do just for a quick check, because when you're working with table sizes very large, it's going to be tough to kind of go through and see kind of all of the white space. So what you can do instead is you can make a new column and call it trim. And what trim does in Excel is it removes excess white space. So as I can see here, it looks like I'm getting the exact same thing, but it's trimming that white space. And so I'll use that column. I'll Control C and paste the values in order to get it, and that's the fix. So that is usually my second kind of what is happening when I'm getting errors in my vLookup. Is there extra white space? And like I said before, really common to have dirty data sets where there's extra white space or trailing or leading. So that is going to be your problem and solution for problem 2. So problem 3 is also something that probably comes up in a vLookup tutorial. So unlike the previous problems that we've encountered, table 2 is now going to start with the fruit and then end with the letter. So as I do my vLookup and I'm looking for letter A in this column, and I hit my F4 and I want column 1, because that's where the apple is, it's not going to give me that option. So a huge difference between a vLookup and an index match is that a vLookup is pretty rudimentary, so it's kind of a quick fix to getting data from one place to another. But an index match, which is more complex in nature, and there's also some great tutorials out there, is that the main difference is that the columns don't matter in an index match. So whereas in a vLookup, the table array that you're working with has to start with the solution first. So kind of that first column needs to be the letter. So a quick fix for this is going to be to, make a faux column. So what you can do is you can show, at the very beginning, table 2, I want this to be, I want this to reference that letter formula. And so with this, what I can do instead is I will need to change where I show my table. So that's going to start with column E instead, and then F4, and my answer is in column 2, and then false. So now that is good to go. So if you don't really want to change the structure or integrity of that second table, I would always encourage just kind of like adding a new column, a blank column, and referencing where that answer is in the second table. And so that's going to be there. And then kind of a quick thing, sort of like we did on the trim, you can Control C, copy and paste the values so that in case this faux field, faux column that you added to reference and make the vLookup work will stay, the integrity of the table will stay. So those are going to be the 3 most common vLookup errors. vLookup is a really powerful tool and it's very commonly used. Do not be afraid if for the first time that you use it you get errors. That happens quite often. It's just the fun of it is digging in and seeing how you can fix those errors. So I hope this video was helpful and that you can kind of look to these problems and the suggested solutions in order to fix vLookup errors in the future. All right, thanks for listening. Bye.